Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's the Cryptid Huntress. I'm Jessica Jones, and man, do we have a fun show for you guys today. It is Labor Day here in the United States. And so thank you guys so much, everybody who's here today, for hanging out with us on your holiday. Okay, not everybody gets the day off, but the kids do. And so I got my kid home today, and we don't have big plans today other than this. Okay. So not too big of plans. And if I did, I wouldn't tell anybody. No, I'm just kidding. Classified information. But yeah, everybody. So thank you so much for being here Saturday night. My gosh, we had a great show with Corey Cole. And my good friend Eric Testerman came and co-hosted with me. And we talked about so much stuff. Corey has had, you guys will know him from Boondock Mojo. Comes in the chat sometimes, and we were talking about Oklahoma, Dogman, were hyenas, and little people, and he had a picture of a dragon and all sorts of cool stuff. So if you guys missed that, please go back and check that out. It was a great show, and I really did have fun. I think we lost Corey like the last 2/3 of the show, maybe. The last quarter of the show, I think his phone died. But me and Eric had a really good time towards the end. So y'all definitely check that out. And man, I got some great shows lined up for us this week. And we need to get to this one. Okay. So I do have Barry Littleton here in the studio with me today. And we are going to be talking about caves as portals and different types of portals today. Also inner earth and the cryptid connections. We have a lot to discuss as always. Okay. And so y'all buckle up, buttercups. We've got a wild ride today. So if y'all would like to follow along with all of my shows, I did update my website today. My calendar of events is not updated. We are not doing the Georgia Bigfoot conference next month, but this month, today's September. We have decided to hold off on that one. So I have like 3 more events that I haven't posted on my events calendar yet. I'm getting booked up, y'all. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful thing. But I am getting super booked up. Every weekend from here on out, I'm pretty much booked with stuff. But anyways, go to my website if you'd like to check out my social media links and all that kind of stuff. It's thecryptidhuntress.com. Okay. And also there's a link to my Patreon there, as well as my shop. It's called War Woman Goods. So thank you guys so much for all your support. It means the world to me. Okay. Let's get to our show today. All right, so today we are talking about the idea that caves are portals. With longtime experiencer and researcher Barry Littleton, could caves be used for teleportation, manifestation, interdimensional travel, and more? Barry has recently put out a couple of videos over the past month of Bigfoot in portals, Bigfoot in caves. And those links are in the chat today. If you scroll up to the top of the chat, they're there. And so please help me welcome to the show my longtime good friend, Mr. Barry Littleton. Hey, Barry.
Hey, what's up, Jessica? What's happening? This is an unexpected one. Thanks for having me on. It's cool. These ones always go very cool. You know what I mean? Like no time to prep or anything. So it's raw. Like WWE Monday Night Raw.
Oh my gosh. Yes, it is. Well, you put out some really great videos, and I know you probably just put those out to the public. I'm sure you've had those videos for a minute, and finally, thank you for putting those out to the public on your YouTube channel. I know I think it's really important that the public gets this kind of information, And you're awesome for doing
All
that.
right, thank
So
you. I
thank you.
really appreciate that. I took a kind of hit because I wasn't putting a lot of stuff out anymore, and I think I lost maybe some audience or viewers anyways. My view count has gone from like used to be 8,000 to like down to 100, 200.
Oh gosh.
But that's all right. It still keeps coming out. At least that thing still exists there as a database. All those videos, and they're quick videos, and it's people that want to do their own research, But I did a live yesterday that you joined with, and thank you very much. I appreciate that. So first one I've done in a while. And after I was making some more technical errors, it'll be better next time.
I think you did great. I really enjoyed it, actually.
Well,
I very much enjoyed it. Yeah. If you guys missed that, please go and subscribe to Barry's channel. I'm sure most of the people in my chat right now are subscribed to your channel, but just in case they're not.
Well, hello to everybody in the chat too. I didn't speak, so hello everybody.
Yeah.
Good audience,
Oh yeah. The best.
This it's interesting. Excuse me, that you chose this one because it honestly, this is sometimes when doing this work, I get confronted with things that I just have to accept and kind of go with the flow, And this will be an individual that it was a client, and they actually live not far from my hometown, not far at all.
Oh.
So, within an hour, maybe 90 minutes or so. So, where they stay is not my state. Is not quote unquote the Sasquatch state. Not at all.
No.
I mean, so when you go to BFRO, there's actually
Right.
a few, but I mean, not many, and it's not where you would think to be seeing Sasquatch. So this individual, we did quite a bit of work together, and at one point they wanted to get a reading, and when I did this reading for them, I kept getting Sasquatch stuff and Bigfoot stuff.
Really?
And this individual is into like more the Reiki type of. They're not a big, it's just different. These different, community unquote. It's more of a healer, Reiki type of person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't, really mention it during the reading because it just seemed like it would just be off. You know what I mean? And then during one of these regressions, we did several. The individual starts describing this dog that had been being seen around their neighborhood, how it's just a remote part of our state there. And this thing looked like a really big sheepdog.
Sheepdog.
And it was kind of tripping people out, I guess. And guess what? It turns out it's when they're in heightened awareness, they see this thing it's a Sasquatch of some type.
Oh.
And it's kind of using some type of mimic to trick people. And it's a younger one. Okay. And then they start connecting it to these cave system near where they stay. And that's right there at this point. I'm going, what in the AT double hockey sticks? Caves? That's not something else common in my state either. I mean, not a lot of caves. I didn't know about any caves in that area at all. And they start describing these caves and how these Sasquatch are using them to manifest. And this is somebody that doesn't follow the Bigfoot thing. They don't follow me on that deal. It's not, you know what I mean? So this is what it is. And that they actually use the caves are more of a safe ground, although they don't really live there. They use them for transport, but also as a training ground for the juveniles because it's safe in these caves, more safe. And, it gets you to thinking about something, Jessica, is that, I don't know about you, I'm sure there's some people in the audience too, that if you like to go out and hang out when you were a kid, you go hang out, party or whatever, just, you had some of those friends, you met most of your good friends' parents, but you had those ones that you never met. You never seen them. They're like, what is it? The people that can't come out of the agoraphobic, they can't come out of the house or something. So you never ever saw their parents. It made you wonder if they even had parents until they got in trouble. And then you saw them because they had to come get them, whatever it was. Yeah. Well, you said, oh, their parents. They do have parents. But I think a lot of times when we see some of these Sasquatch experiences, it's due to that reason. The adults having to come looking for the juveniles or juveniles not knowing the boundaries and being too curious. And I think that's one of the reasons that they're so quick to manifest in front of women and children first, So
Wow.
anyway, but anyway, so this just, like I said, I was just really tripped out on that. I mean, just the whole thing. And so, I mean, I had toward the point to where I was like, man, it just can't be. But it came out in this deal. So I started researching this area where they're from. There are caves up there. I never knew that.
There's caves everywhere.
Yeah. I mean,
Even
it's not
in
like
the Midwest.
I don't come from the mountainous state. I'll just put it like that.
You don't. It's flat, right?
Yeah.
Flat.
Yes. To a degree. Yeah. We got the Flint Hills. The Flint Hills are kind of, they're pretty good size.
They're a little curvy, a little humpy.
Yeah. But
listen, I've been to the Midwest, and I remember flying over it. I had to go to Nebraska I think it was Lincoln. I went to Lincoln to go. I was at a conference or something when I used to work. When I used to have a real job back in the day, okay, and I used to fly all over the place. I went to Lincoln, and it was all cornfields. It was literally, that's why they're called the Huskers, right? The corn Huskers or something. I don't know. It was, when we were flying, the plane was landing, I was like, oh my God, I've never seen so much corn in my life. It was just flat corn land. Yeah.
Actually, where I'm from, it's wheat. Where's the land of wheat? It's wheat here. Wheat and sunflower. Something. Yeah, anyway. Corn, yeah, there's always which side is stronger, the corn or the rice side.
Oh, man. Well, I'm getting a lot of reports, and I've been reading a lot of reports about dogmen coming out of the cornfields and stuff. Like, especially up in, like, the Beast of Bray Road had some kind of cornfield connection. Some of these Michigan dogmen have, and Wisconsin dogmen as well. I covered that last week.
I've been hearing that more frequently too. Something else that I had heard, and this was a while back, is like, even like in my state, some things that are seen like in infrared going through some of these fields, as far as like just migrating somewhere else, especially like late at night. And sometimes there's Sasquatch and sightings in that nature, which is fascinating. But because, well, I guess we don't understand all the migration patterns they do. Like some of them obviously ride the freights.
The trains.
Yeah, I mean, they must. And I did a little deal on that. The people that, some of the FTRA, the Freight Train Riders of America. And back in the 90s, when I first heard about them, that was always associated with these serial killers that were supposed to be a member of those groups, and kind of these hobos that were riding the rails. Yeah, and
that's a great cover right there. Good way to go undetected, I guess. Just hopping trains.
That old TV show that I mentioned before, Werewolf, the first was to come off Fox when Fox first opened up with Married with Children and 21 Jump Street. Werewolf, it went for like a season and a half before it got canceled, but they actually did an episode where he was jumping the rails. Kind of interesting. I mean, they didn't say FTRA or anything, but just interesting. And another werewolf was riding the freights too. And yeah, it's just kind of interesting. But when I first heard about Sasquatch and that, it's like, how interesting is that? It makes sense that they would follow the railroads anyway, just as far as migration goes. In some ways, it could be as useful as a river, following the river. In some ways, I think, especially if you're scouring behind people. Anyway,
they always follow the water. They do. It seems like. I mean, first of all, it's a source of sustenance. Okay, they got to have water, but it's how they travel, I guess.
Well, it's the one report that I saw on BFRO. It's actually in my county, and the individual said that they saw one of these things breaking clams down at the Arkansas River.
Breaking clams. Those things are hard.
There's actually a confluence near my city between the Little Arkansas and the Big Arkansas, but really we call it another term here that I won't say. It gets into trouble. You know what I mean? People get mad, so we'll just say Arkansas River, but that ain't what we call it here. Anyway, okay. But the report was that this individual was walking along kind of close to the edge of the river, out doing their nightly walk, and they hear this clacking and see this thing sitting on a mud island out there, breaking the rocks, this thing on rocks, these clams, really? And eating it the way that you hear they're eating that quite a bit. And they said they just couldn't believe it. They said they watched this. There's no way that in our state you just would see what, it's fascinating.
Mhm.
Fascinating. I met a group of paranormal investigators several years ago, and they wanted to do a tour of the private club I'm part of, as far as entertainment. And I've had some experiences in there. It's
Mhm.
an old building and it's active, and they came to actually investigate and want to know what rooms I thought were active. And they started telling me that they were actually really into Bigfoot and Sasquatch at that time. And they were reporting there were a bunch of reports in the county, a couple over from us. And it's just stuff like that you don't hear. And it was connected to forest only. It's forested areas.
Yeah.
So I guess
Well,
if you're dealing with beings that can manipulate those portals like that.
yes. Exactly. Well, and I'm going to in the near future sometime. I'm going to have my friend on from Atlanta who's comes in the chat sometimes, but he was planning on being my guest last Saturday night, and then he had to back out for some personal reasons and stuff. But he has encountered and even left food out for a dogman in downtown Atlanta, where he lives, Dogman and Bigfoot. And this we're talking about like downtown Atlanta. Okay, and I 100% believe him. Of course, downtown Atlanta is not. It's just like we talk about like Long Island, New York, right? Like I went to Long Island, New York to go do some Bigfooting and stuff. We went up to Montauk a couple years ago, and I was expecting it all to be like Manhattan, like downtown New York City, right? But Long Island is actually woods. It's actually beautiful pasture land, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. Deer everywhere. There are so many deers out there, and so downtown Atlanta has woods too. Okay,
Mm-hmm,
and if you don't think there's not a big old portal there, including I've heard rumors that there's a large hadron collider under downtown Atlanta as well. So that might have, and I know that doesn't mean that brings all the dogmen
It's
and stuff, but it
absurd.
could.
Yeah.
It is. It's similar.
I'm just kidding.
That's what I heard. That's a
What's
rumor.
the name of it though? This one though.
I don't know. I have no idea. It's just it's either a large ion collider or a large hadron collider, something like that.
I'll tell you something else to keep an eye on. This is kind of just in the realm.
Mm-hmm.
Keep an eye on that neutrino collector they made. It's a massive project. I think it's in China. It's a new neutrino collider, like collector. So it's a little different. But check that out, because when we start dealing with these exotic particles that they're getting, and they're including from CERN that they're not telling us about, and that really takes us from, because really CERN and that type of as far as creating a black hole and creating one of these portals, because you and I've done a show about actually them trying to weaponize these things. So it's a matter of how would they do it. So you have to look at some of the things that are slightly transparent to us scientifically. Like in the labs, they have these oh gosh, somebody's going to butcher me because I'm going to mispronounce the word. I want to say analogous black holes that they make in the labs, which they do through like pressures, liquids, gases, and things. And they were actually creating black hole physics. So it's not an actual black hole, but they're observing all the things like Hawking radiation and sound and all the things that are coming from these black holes. So it's very interesting, but that's, I think, the premises of trying to actually create one and sustain one. And the problem that they're having right now is that most of the things that they're doing is based on what, look, I'm not a scientist, so somebody could burn me up. Okay. But
we just play them on TV. I'm just kidding.
No. To my primitive brother understanding, and my weird B-dub interpretation. But seriously, they're dealing more with what is special relativity, which uses high amounts of energy. Okay, like super amounts of energy. You would need something like CERN or a collider like that to do that, or even something more powerful than that. And that's a problem that they're having due to the instability that the black hole, artificial or naturally, would endure. And you notice that something that when you did the remote viewing the portals, the natural portals, you started noting in the data that some of them are unstable and that they move around. You know what I mean? So it's like micro wormholes that are natural to our environment that do that. All right. So them trying to create one is a problem, but trying to sustain one is different. Keep it stable is different. Now,
whoa, this is interesting.
I'm gonna give an example. Okay, sorry, should have put up this picture, but okay, so you've seen that craft before that I've showed. I've shown it so many times, but it's a saucer, but it's got a dome on the. Oh, there's one of them. Oh, I got lucky. Okay, it's not the best one because it doesn't have the right deal on the bottom, but it's just bigger. This one here. Okay, I've got actually there was another one of these gyro things on the real one, but the important thing is it has this thing on top. Okay, that I call a directional emitter. All right, and it's got two functions. One is during this encounter when I first saw this thing is the light on it when it turns towards me. It's going woo woo woo. It's like it's tuning me in. Okay, now I know it was adjusting to my brainwave frequency. And I've told everybody how these things go through these makos, and these makos operate like brainwaves. Okay, that's scientifically proven through Rudy Shields and them. Okay, so this thing was not just capable of that, but it also does this. And this is what they were putting in my mind, okay, that it creates also a plasma beam. It creates a plasma beam that can open a rift. And then they go to their different destination. I think that rift doesn't just mean to another third dimensional location. It means another dimensions, multi-dimensional. I think also other universes. So when that thing unfolded, anybody that's looked at those videos on my channel, the Tripyramidal Merkabah, that thing unfolded into this crystalline looking thing in the sky. And really, when I saw that, I don't care any of my knowledge of holographic principle. I could talk the good science, but man, you see something like that, it pushed my perception to the boundaries, period. But what this thing was doing was a pattern of unfoldment to match its destination when it goes through this Mako, which is probably another universe, I'm pretty sure. You know what I mean? Based on something different than us. We're based on the spin. This is probably somewhere based off crystalline. Or even more than we are. Anyway, sorry. I don't want to go too first. We're talking about Bigfoot and caves, but it all kind of ties in, though. You know what I mean?
You have done your research on this, though, Barry. Like you are one of my resident go-tos when it comes to talking about portals and in black holes. You know, my first science project ever that I remember in elementary school, I did it on black holes. I'll never forget that. I was fascinated by black holes.
Man, okay, so maybe I'm going to push the boundary of your movie experience.
Oh God.
Hey, did you ever see? It was when I was a kid. It was which were a few years between us, but the Black Hole, the movie.
No, I don't think so.
You never saw the Black Hole movie? The guy was in it. Ernest Hemingway was in it. Not Ernest Hemingway. Ernest Borgnine, and also the guy that played Psycho, Anthony Perkins. He was in it, and it was all about actually this ship that was from Earth that was using an anti-gravitational field so it wouldn't be sucked into the black hole. And this cat that was on board, Dr. whatever it was, I can't remember his name now, not quite that good, but he had taken his entire crew and turned them into robots. It was like the crew on board this ship. They're like these weird cyborg robot things. And it was really an advanced movie that had a lot of good science in it, and the special effects in it was good, especially their portray of like the robots, like Vincent, Bob, Maximilian. It was very good in that way, but it went up against in the era against other shows or other movies that just didn't do very good. But it was well done. So I asked, anybody can pull that up on YouTube. Black Hole, I think it was 1979.
Oh God.
What do you mean by that?
I was not even old enough to watch a movie at that time. So I don't know. Maybe, I mean, I could have caught one on a, a few years later, I could have watched it. But yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, my mom got me the record album thing first. We still had records back then. You remember those, don't you? Okay.
Oh, yeah. I've been taking my son to the record store actually lately. We've been looking for cassette tapes. He's got a fascination with cassette tapes right now. So yeah,
Man, that's ancient, isn't it? Man,
it is ancient. My son
my
loves
mom had a
them.
bunch of. I remember seeing the Earth, Wind, and Fire on the 8-track. My mom was playing 8-tracks.
Oh, I came across some 8-tracks recently at that record store. Yeah, I was like, I've never even used an 8-track before, but I had cassette tapes. Yeah.
Were
Did
you
you know?
kind?
By the way,
Did you rewind? Were you kind and rewind?
no. Okay, I got to tell you something real. I know this is totally off topic, but did you know that the artists still put out songs and albums on cassette tapes? I was shocked. I did not know that. Just in case anybody was wondering, I did not know that. I found like all sorts of artists that I grew up with, and I'm putting out albums even to this day. They're still putting some albums out on cassette tapes. That's weird. I didn't know that. But anyways, let's continue talking about
I
portals.
guess I didn't even say the other part of that. I mentioned that movie and it didn't. The thing is, though, in the end, they go through the black hole, and that's always been a big question. If you could survive the pressures, what is on the other side? Do you emerge out of a white hole, or what is it in those changed terms? So just stuff like that, I think is interesting for people to look up. And sometimes there's secrets and things before we hit the age of AI and everything, but they were trying to portray that,
Yeah. Everything was shown to us back in the day. It's been in our collective consciousness, I guess. That's really wild. We actually have a really good question. I've been starring some of these questions. I'm not.
Sorry.
I've been pulling them up on the screen, and then I lose track of what I'm doing and I take them down. So I just put stars on them, and I have one from Cryptid. Actually, let's see if I can pull this up. Cryptid says, what do you think about the prospect of caves exposing radioactive material that breaks the space-time to create portals that these beings use to move between dimensions? What do you think?
I wouldn't doubt that at all. And when dealing with that too, I think that also when you start dealing with the dimensional pressures within the Earth, it starts with the pressure as far as like gravitational pressures and things, that it starts creating what could be these portals too, and natural things. And the radioactive thing would be another part. You know what I mean? The radioactive substances that are inside the Earth, I'm not real familiar with, but I mean, it sounds very viable to me. That between that and along pressures and different pressures and combustibles also it's all sorts of things. So, and that makes you kind of wonder too, like, how much of it is connected, like as far as the cave systems are truly connected. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, we have a huge cave system in the United States, and I have a picture. I often show this when I give a presentation because it does correlate with the missing persons clusters that you and I have covered extensively. Right here, that bottom map are the major cave systems throughout the United States. I'd say a lot of them are over in the Appalachians. Okay, and hey, they're not too far from where you live, Barry. I'm just saying.
I'm looking at one of them,
yeah.
And right where this individual's from. See, there's a little spot there. Exactly where they're from.
Wow.
And that's what's a trip about when you start really doing that work, is that some of that stuff you just can't make up. You know what I mean?
I know. That's why I'm fascinated by it. I love hearing the things that you find out through regressions.
When doing also, and one other thing I didn't mention too.
Here's a Bigfoot coming out of a cave.
Once this thing opens up a rift, they also had told me that they could ride gravitational waves. And at that time, this happened to me was this is like 93. You know what I mean? And our science wasn't able to prove gravitational waves existed at that time. But that's the term they had put in my mind, gravitational waves. Just like they were telling me also there's sound that comes out of black holes. I didn't believe that either, because it's supposed to be space. But what have we found out now? There is sound that comes through that. And even some species that might use that sound through colliding black holes to, ride that out too. That could be actually
the sound frequency.
The sound frequency. Anybody look that up? What large black holes, massive black holes, and they collide, they make a sound. It's been recorded.
Whoa.
Another thing, back on the Sasquatch thing, when dealing with them and they're manifesting, whether it's in these caves or however they're doing it, it's interesting to put into perspective. We just talked about special relativity, which has large amounts of energy needed, but we don't hear a whole lot about general relativity when it comes to like time travel and things like that, which can use high energy but also low energy. There's a whole lot of low energy when you start getting into things like the drag frame. A cousin just had his birthday and he always gets mad at me. He swears the earth is flat, so I try not to go too much
Hey,
into that.
that's not an argument. Yeah, we don't need no arguments about flat Earth, man.
I
They
don't
will
go
never
into it
end.
because all I say is people go take a meteorology class. That's it. Try that and then go from there. Anyway, but when dealing with objects such as this tennis ball, okay, if it was a massive object, it bends space, the curvature of space-time around it, special relativity. Okay, so that's called the inertial, the frame drag, and Earth creates that, and it can be seen in what's called the Doppler effect. The Doppler effect, when they first started putting those satellites off, they would get off like by a minute or so once a year. Then that's got to do with that inertial drag frame and that Doppler effect. Anyway, so when dealing with that, and I mentioned before, that starts dealing with the curvature of space. So there's these things called closed time-like curves. And for when you're dealing with time science, that's a whole nother thing. And this takes us also into warp physics. And warp physics that would be dealing with really the science what we're talking about right now. And there's all sorts of different types of ways to warp space and the warp physics that exists out there. Something like Alcubierre, warp drive, or curved light beams, circular light beams, and that's not too far unconnected with crop circles too, and the spears that are doing them, the high energy plasma. Anyway, just food for thought, okay? Yeah. So, but when dealing with Sasquatch, it's obviously going to be, I guess even low energy for any type of teleport or time travel is still going to be a significant amount. But what is it they're using to manifest and unmanifest? Something beyond the invisibility that they can just, and right there, that's them using a tree as a portal, using as a tree to manifest. And I'd mentioned and put that up, and no one pays attention when I put up stuff like that a lot, but you do, but
I always do.
MK Davis had recently he just released this like about a week ago, and it's a video where he's showing one of the habitation. I don't think it's the one in Paris, Texas. It might be, or he kept saying East Texas, and I don't think Paris, Texas is in East Texas, but it's another one of those habituations. And on the tree, you can see he starts describing this face. He said, "See, it looks like the face of a Sasquatch here." And this day he's going all into it for a minute. And for me, it just went, sometimes you just get hit, things make you go, Yeah. Like Arsenio Hall or something. But that was the Man of Light. A lot of people in your audience are familiar with him, I'm sure. But the Man of Light that puts that stuff up, and I like him. He's got that Jersey accent or whatever. They got special superpowers. They got powers, spiritual powers. But he's got pictures of several trees that he calls portal trees. And he says this is the one that they manifest from. They're letting us see it. And he starts showing pictures of faces similar to that on these trees. And it appears to be a Sasquatch coming out or a head coming out, things of that nature. I mean, it's very interesting. And he's the main one that I first started seeing talking about them using trees. Him and, of course, the great Tom Powell, of course. But, but I mean, I think it's very valid. And, MK Davis had also suggested something that made me go home again. He thought that when you're dealing with, a spirit, aka forest people or whatever, and as ancient Africans and Native Americans, everything has a spirit. Everything has a spirit. And the trees have a spirit, and it's collective spirit on top of that. And he was saying that a lot of times, due to stuff like what happened in the Bluff Creek deal, I know some people don't like Patty. That. Yeah. But that when these tree knocks are actually them waking up the tree and the forest to acknowledging that they're like basically illegal loggers in the area, to cause harm. That don't respect the spirit when they're cutting down trees.
Whoa.
Food for
Well,
thought.
yeah, I'm still of the idea that it's not tree knocks they're doing. Maybe it is tree knocks, but I think they're clicking their tongue. Is what I
Agreed.
think. But it's still a warning system. It's still some way to communicate. Is what that is.
Agreed.
And we have some really interesting comments in the chat today. Bigfoot Dwarf, what's up, Bigfoot Dwarf? He said boulders are portals as well. Boulders could be portals. That's interesting. Okay,
Really?
and yeah, and Adolf in the chat also. They're both out of California. He said that a portal opened in Yosemite, I believe, just recently, like this week, maybe. That's interesting too. These national parks are nothing to take lightly, y'all. And ask me and my team how we know. Okay.
I just heard a number of very hostile Sasquatch interactions out of Yosemite. People saying they'll never go back there. Yeah, and back as far as boulders, it's generally granite that's acknowledged with that ability to create some sort of a portal. Normally, what's under not just magnetized, but pressurized granite. Yeah, because a lot of times when you'll see, I've mentioned before that I think those are the portals that are used to actually go to the deep biosphere of the Earth, where you have organic craft that are actually interacting with the deep biosphere that contains over 95% of our undiscovered bacterial and fungi components of this planet. Things like that. We think about really the symbiotic nature of some things.
Mm-hmm. I stand corrected. Bigfoot Dwarf was asking if boulders can be portals. So,
yeah.
I read it wrong, I guess.
Mostly around granite, and I'm sure he probably knows a lot about granite too. And I don't think it's coincidence too when somehow David Mystic 401 Pallades, he's got a lot of those clusters are related to granite areas, aren't they?
I mean, all of our Bigfoot spots that we go to, and I've been called out to investigate Bigfoot sightings. There's just veins of quartz everywhere. Veins of quartz everywhere I've ever gone out to do an investigation, and a lot of the places that we actually do our research are full of quartz.
Yeah, that'd be a good one too. Yeah, granite, quartz, there's other things like, for example, there was this mine, I don't know if it was in North Carolina, that my friend was a collector, her whole family was for a long time, but it was a cave that had green beryl and black beryl, I believe it was. And, it creates like some type of oxidation when those combine that are like natural quasi-crystals. And I believe that is very amplifies in terms of the star beings or they're watching. This individual told me the story of being around that area and seeing what looked like iron, what do you call it? Take the jack off.
I don't know.
I'm talking about,
it's a construction thing.
Take the wheel off. No,
a wheelbarrow.
No,
I have no idea.
To get the jack off. It's with the jack.
I have no idea.
I just can't think of the name of it, man. I can see it right here. The thing that, remember David Banner and the Hulky? Oh, because he's trying to use it.
Is it the thing that you crack rocks with?
Lug wrench. Jeez, sorry. That was a deep. That was hard, man.
No.
Lug wrench. It's a lug wrench.
I have a toolbox, but I don't know.
They thought it was a lug wrench on the ground, and they're going to pick it up.
Oh, okay.
And suddenly they got telepathically, don't pick that up. It's dangerous. And when they turn to see where this is coming from, they step back. They see where it's coming from. It's this old man that was one of the caretakers of the mine. Is standing way down there, talking telepathically to him. And that's the individual starts telling me, I think that sometimes they like pretend to be these caretakers, and they're like really extraterrestrials, or they are caretakers, and for some reason they're attracted to that area. Now, everybody knows I've talked about quasi-crystal and photonic crystals and how they're involved with not just ship construction, but propulsion also. an energy source also. So it doesn't surprise me at all. And then again, that's dealing with another cave subject. So I brought it up for that reason. So don't nobody get mad.
Nobody's gonna get mad. Rose Thistle Artworks. Yes, I love MK Davis's research too. He is really good, you guys. What is his YouTube channel? It's not called MK Davis. It's like green something. I can't remember. It's not MK Davis. But you look up MK Davis and it's on there. It's called like Green World or something. It's got green in it. Okay,
Green Wave, I think, isn't it? Green Wave.
Yeah, green something. Green Wave, and it's got some numbers behind it. If anybody knows, y'all put it in the chat. Because it is a great channel. Green Wave. Thank you. Green Wave 2010.
Yeah.
Okay. Shout out to MK Davis, man. I got to hang out with him.
Yeah, you met him in person.
Alabama Bigfoot Town Hall.
Pretty exciting there.
Yeah. He's a good guy. But he's got that thirst for knowledge. You know what I mean? And to solve some of these mysteries and to really get to the bottom of this stuff. And he is one of the. There's a lot of genuine people out there. Okay, but he's a genuine, great researcher.
What's interesting? You know who he's real good friends with?
Who?
Tom Powell. He's advertised Tom Powell and mentioned him several times on his channel. Because when I was hanging with Tom that time, Tom's like, man, I know MK real good. You want to talk to him? I was like, hell yeah, man. He's called him on the phone, but he didn't answer. He said, he must be busy. He's not answering. I was like, man, that would have been exciting. Just before I got the reptilian speech thing,
Oh yeah. Joyce said, can I please RV Art Bell's death? That's an interesting one. Oh, man, maybe we'll put that in the pot there.
I'll tell you what, Joyce.
Thank you, Joyce.
Go look up Whitley Strieber and Art Bell's death. Whitley Strieber and Art Bell were very close. I mean, outside, like to where they saw each other frequently. And he talks about Art's death and really how it happened. Art was really sick. Like so sick. That's why, when he jumped from he would go off the air sometime and so he would be like on a different deal, like a different, with different show or something. He was really sick. And it was COPD is what Whitley Strieber said. He had COPD and something else, but it was so bad that he almost couldn't breathe at all. And he still continued to smoke. Yeah, just check out. I don't want to speak any more than that. I'm not an expert on it, but check out Whitley Strieber and Art Bell's death. He did a video on it. He talked about it. He almost cried, dude. He said we were such good friends. So maybe it's not quote unquote as conspiracy driven as we might think, as much as pure health problem. Yeah.
Oh man, that's really sad. R.I.P. to Art Bell.
Yeah, he was the pioneer. That's a true parent pioneer, right there.
Absolutely. And we've actually, you've given me some of the some targets actually that were based off of some of the Art Bell shows, including Mel's Hole, one of my favorites. I got to remote view Mel's Hole, y'all. And Tanya did too. Yeah. Shout out to Tanya, man. That was a fun show. And it's in my playlist.
We just got through talking about time technology and curves, different time technology. When dealing with what both you and Tanya both, and your data was so similar to have done it separate, and it was showing that Mel's hole ultimately is what's called in time science a Tipler cylinder. Mm-hmm. The way it rotates, and a Tipler cylinder is it's quite fascinating. Something else I didn't expect, but explains why there's so many anomalies around it. Especially things coming out of it, like maybe the black light people say they see coming out of it.
Oh, yeah. And the dog that was thrown down there dead and then showed back up alive that time. I mean, speaking of portals, I'd say that's a portal. And Bigfoot Dwarf says, we want MK to come to Bluff Creek to at least have lunch with the guys. All right. Hopefully MK will see this. We'll send him a message, okay, about it. That's funny. That would be epic, though. That would definitely be epic.
What's the lady he did all the work with? What was her name? Was it Barbara Shoop? Was that her name?
I don't know. I have no idea.
The whole Bluff Creek massacre thing. MK is the one that goes the most into that, evidence-wise. And I'm just curious. The lady, I think was it Barbara Shoop or Barbara Short? Bobby Short. So one of those two, I'm pretty sure. But it's interesting because they're the one that brought all that up. And I think really when dealing with what we're dealing with this planet, I don't think it's that unknown. You know, there's a reason why the Sasquatch don't want nothing to do with us, man. I mean, I guess that's just common sense. So why mess with people?
Well, because I don't even like messing with people. Okay, half the time. I don't blame them. If I could just camouflage myself and disappear through a portal sometimes, I would. Okay.
Yeah.
I absolutely would. I don't know.
Hey, you know, back to something. I think I jumped around so much because I got too weird. But you know, going back to what you had said, you said under Atlanta that there might be some type of a collider or something like that under there.
It's just rumored.
I don't know for sure. Dealing with that or this neutrino collider collector that they built, activated. It's you know, when dealing with for just a millisecond, the different type of exotic particles we're not being told about. And it's those type of exotic particles that can take us into that general relativity opposed to special relativity, or maybe even special relativity in terms that they could be for a low amount could have a huge amount of energy. But that's when we start getting those exotic particles. And I think that's really what they're hiding from people a lot. Even if you want to look into the thing, was what John Teeter said correct? Heck, for the year he claimed to be from is only 11 years away, right?
I don't know.
I think he said he's from 2036. And, you know, I sent you this talk. Speaking of Art Bell,
that's not that far.
Two things that it's actually on my channel, so I can link people to it. But it's two ones. Once or twice a year, he would open up the time traveler line. And the Rocky, the wild card line, they were all for the time travel thing.
It was the best.
And, and you know, and there's that guy that called in a couple of times, like maybe within a year of time he did it. And the guy said, I called in before, but for me that was just a minute ago, and I just heard my voice on there. Yet it was a trip. Mark's going, oh my god, you know. So it was real interesting. But that guy, I think, said he's from the year 2036 also. And he mentioned several operations that I'd never heard before. Operation Black Swan. I hear that now. Operation, what's the other one he said? Operation, do you remember? I sent it to you.
No, I don't remember. That's interesting. It's the same date, same year.
Yeah. And he was talking about, he was talking about that there was back engineered with the extraterrestrials this technology. He called it a spatial, I can't remember. I can, before we get off here, I'll put it in the chat. I'll just get on my thing. I'll link it in the chat so people can listen to them themselves. A multi-layered dimensional shift craft, he was calling it. It was quite interesting. And with John Teeter, I did a video on that. You know, he gave the patent, the future patent for that thing he had in that Corvette. He showed pictures of that Corvette and pictures of that time generator. I thought that was quite fascinating. And then, you know, but people don't realize he didn't come forward on Art Bell. Art Bell mentioned this cat because he found out about it. But that guy didn't. John Teeter was on this website. So when he were websites back then, they were like, were they just pages or whatever?
I don't know. That's a long time ago. You just said pages. It wasn't like the World Wide Web. It was just, yeah.
Yeah, it was like
They didn't have Google back then, I guess.
I tell somebody, I saw it on CompuServe. People say, Compu what, man? CompuServe, man. Gosh.
Golly.
I had a VIC-20. A VIC-20 could use the CompuServe. Anyway.
Gosh, I don't even think I had a computer until I was in college. Or something like that. I mean, that's dating me. Okay, of course. But I don't even know if we had a computer in our apartment when I went to college. I don't even remember. We used to have to go to the computer lab.
Play some Oregon Trail. That what you had? Some Oregon Trail?
Yeah. Now we all have computers in our fingertips. At the Oregon Trail. I was down at Georgia Southern, baby. I was down in South Georgia in the middle of a cotton field, basically. A cornfield. Yes. Yes, remnant. I mean, it's all fields down there. It's very agricultural where I went to college down there, and it used to be the party school of the South. So
if I were to say, hey, Jessica, what, like using a movie reference, what's the first time you really were made noticed of AI, what they're calling that now.
Of AI, I guess like the Terminator. I don't know. I mean, the Terminator, because it was always like that. That's is the most prominent in my memory, I guess, would be like the Terminator. It's like the effects of AI getting out of control and taking over the world. And I was always like, oh, that'll never happen, though. That's just a horror flick, basically, you know. But fast forward to today, and look what's happening. That was the first time I remember it.
Wow. You know, for me, it was Buck Rogers in the 25th century with Gil Gerard. And it was the little robot. And I met that cat, both of them actually, but I met the little robot before he died. Felix Salas, I think was his name. Anyway, he played that robot Twinkie, beak, go like that. But he had a thing around his neck. It was this little circle that was Dr. Theopolis. And Dr. Theopolis was part of the Earth's council. And it was about 12 things that looked just like him with different configurations. But that was my first exposure to artificial intelligence and how it's being incorporated into our future like that. Mm-hmm. I remember my Uncle Reggie telling me, actually, I saw when I died, actually, but when he was alive, he's a science fiction fan too. He told me, he said, man, you need to check out Hal. Hal was before that. That's kind of based on Hal. Yeah, and then that's a whole other thing going on there. But I mean, you see how that was way before. How would have been the first artificial intelligence that technically turned against us.
So turned against us.
2000, and was that Space Odyssey? 2001 Space Odyssey. So much stuff comes up amongst the moon landing because of that movie. And then that thing with the fake Stanley Kubrick, that's not even him. That's an actor. It's a crisis actor, dude, saying that he's Stanley Kubrick and that everything was the footage. Because that movie came out like a year before, maybe 2 years before the moon landing. So everybody's saying, oh, it's just footage from that movie that's been used. And that's why the flag is blowing. And that's why there's this and there's that. And, it goes pretty deep. But
I've seen that before. They're like, this is a smoking gun. But you know how I feel about talking about the moon landing, right? The remote viewing stuff. I skirt around it. Okay, I definitely skirt around it. There's way too many anomalies with that. Okay, then that's all I'm going to say.
Well, I can't say one of the best ones. Something that you can't get in trouble for saying, it's like entertainment purposes, right?
Right.
What is it? The first book by Ingo Swann, the most important book, The Quest for Human Extraterrestrial Telepathy. Remember?
Mm-hmm. Penetration.
That's really all about the moon.
Yeah. I've got it on my bookshelf right here. Yeah.
And ain't read it, have you? Ain't touched it, have you?
I've read parts of it.
What'd you read?
I don't know. I don't remember. I've read parts of it, and I was like, actually, I'm not going to lie. It's really interesting, but to me, it was kind of boring a little bit too. But I just had not gotten, just to me a little bit. Listen, I'm a busy woman, and I got to get to the point sometimes. You know what I mean? So I was like, hey, I don't have time for this.
What's really interesting though is when those gentlemen had a remote view that blind target, and of course he'd be the owner that he wasn't calling it that at that point. Mm-hmm. When he's looking at that city, and what's so interesting is when you were looking at the TRAPPIST-1 thing, I kept thinking of his response to those guys. He thought he was viewing some city in Nevada,
Earth in the future, right?
Yeah, and yes, it's very interesting. I find all that,
It's always Earth in the future. That's what it looks like when we're remote. I mean, this is what it's been in all my targets. Mid-rise apartments, right? This is I wanted to address this comment from Corey. What's up, Corey? Corey was on the show Saturday night. Thank you for being here. We enjoyed having you on the show Saturday, Corey. He says he was talking about how he had walked kind of like into a portal when he was metal detecting in the woods one day. And he said that he walked out. He said, years later, I got on Google Earth to look at the location and it was blurred out. Now, that reminds me of Mel's Hole, Barry. People say that when you go to look at the location of where Mel's Hole is, which could be a big old portal right there, it's blurred out. It's either blurred out or there's like a square over it or something. You can't find it. They have taken it off of Google Earth. And so I don't know if it's just because that's a portal or it's just like classified, top secret, or now the government owns the area. They don't want us to see it anymore.
You know, I'd be interested to ask him what did the portal kind of look like? Like the aperture, was it a cube? Was it like fuzzy, or what it kind of looked like? I'd be curious to know. Because I've heard, heard people, we can perceive them in several different ways.
They're all different.
Because that's what Tom was telling me. He said, Barry, you ever see some of that wavy lines, fuzzy stuff out in the forest? Don't ever walk into it. He kept saying that.
Well, I can tell you the different types that we have encountered out in the field. Okay.
Sure.
And there have been different types. There have been types where no one saw anything, but the total environment completely changed in the middle of the day. Okay. Like everything was just off. Like, and this was like 2 of my teammates were actually driving into the woods, driving into the forest. And they knew that we all know that place like the back of our hands, y'all. Okay. And they got somewhere and they didn't recognize anything in their environment. And that was one of the days where it actually was, that was some kind of weird portal. They had missing time and everything when they got back to base camp, missing time, all that. But there was nothing that they saw, any indicators they had gone into a portal.
Okay. No
so there's that kind. Okay, there's that kind where you don't notice anything and you just can't even drive through them, right? There's another type. I have some pictures right here. My team encountered the cube out in the meadow. Okay, now this is not a cube. This is just looks like a doorway. But imagine this right here, but as a cube, a full square. Okay, and it wasn't lit up like that at all. It was 100% invisible unless you were looking at it through a thermal imaging camera or a FLIR, some sort of night vision. You could only see it through a device, through technology. Okay, but it was a square cube in the middle of the field. David Pardue actually sent me a drawing of exactly what he saw that night, an actual drawing. And I'm not going to show it because it's his, okay, but I'll get him back on the show and he can show us that drawing. So there's that. Now, is this a portal or was this some kind of UFO or craft or something? We don't know. It did shrink down and then it floated away after Bob and Tim came out of it. And now I know people in the chat were asking about the radiation. They're talking about radiation and portals. Well, both of them have passed away since they had that encounter. And we we measure radiation out in the field. Okay, and there's almost always at least a little spike of radiation every time we have something happen like this, or any kind of paranormal incident that happens out there. Paranormal, ETs, UFOs, cryptids, whatever. There's usually a little spike of radiation in the environment.
Okay? Do the ghost hunters find a radiation spike at haunted locations too?
I don't know if they measure for it, but I can promise you there's radiation spikes. I'm sure of it.
A lot of times, it'll be a portal or rift, dimensional rift. That's really a distortion in the fabric of time and space that causes the haunting the area. And when you get portals, excuse me, when you get portals like that, you get they come in twos. They seem to come in pairs. Guess you could call them male, female, because one of them's normally stronger and bigger. You know what I mean, than the other. So, but normally they're two. And I've seen people I've had to work with before. They still had this person come over and they said they took care of everything. They closed the portal. Everything's all right for a couple of days or a week and so. And then it all started again. But they didn't close both of them. They didn't either know or couldn't see it.
Yikes.
You know what I mean? That there's two on that property and two in the house. Anyway, sorry, you were saying. And by the way, when you say the cube, I immediately start thinking of Missing 411 UFO Connection. He showed a pretty interesting cube in that one. That was a type of
there's that. Yeah, in that movie, the documentary, you sent me a clip of that, and that was like an invisible cube. This guy could see it. It was like invisible, but he could see it. Right? It was like see-through. And he said the next thing he remembers, he was out elk hunting, and he said that there were all these elk standing around it. The next thing he knows, he's inside that cube with those elk. And they're going into outer space, flying like they're in a spacecraft. Mm-hmm. So could have what my team encountered out in the meadow had been a spacecraft, sure, why not? But I mean, spacecraft could also be a portal somewhere. I mean, it was taking them somewhere, it was transmitting them into another dimension or something.
You know what? I'm gonna throw this out to your audience because they're much sharper than me. Okay, there's a gentleman. He's an older guy. I'm sure he's deceased now, but he's one of the older contactees. He describes seeing this cube similar to like the one on 411, and like you're talking about. And then these beings come out from these physical beings come out of it, although it's invisible. They come out, they're communicating with them, and they have they gave him these little wafers. And he said he ate one. He said, if that's what they have to live on, it was terrible, But he says that, and they were asking for water or something too. But he says then they got back in the cube and the cube took off. But it was invisible. But they were physical. He's an older man. And that he talks about it because he even shows some of this food that they gave him or something like this weird looking stuff. It looked even worse than NASA food, man. Anyway, I can't think of his name, but that's just another example of one of those cubes being used for that is actually a craft. When we start dealing with these dimensional craft, it changes things because it takes us into this quantum hologram and these beings that use Makos and things, and it also takes us into the orb phenomenon. How some of these, they're using that quantum hologram. That's why within the orb you can see these beings in there sometimes. You know what I mean? It gets pretty heavy. Or something like, we won't use the name, but this whistleblower person told me one-on-one in person. They said they'd seen this. One of the larger Dracos, one of the winged ones, sucked up into an orb about this big. This orb comes over. It's just barely noticeable. This orb comes over, and the being seems to contract and it sucks into it. Like almost, not quite digitally, but almost deal like that. And they said that's their craft. Their crafts are their orbs. Even their Legion craft, their large motherships are orbs like that. So, I mean, we start dealing with something that's an orb out here in the third dimension in our physical world, but wherever it is from there is a completely different deal. That's like on the craft I've been on board, or even what Doctor Who tries to show us, and they make it just kind of corny, but people go in that little, of course it's this corny telebooth booth, but you go in there and it's huge on the inside and they just call it transdimensional. But they even explained it, and I know it's like that because it's the inside and the outside of the craft are not in the same dimension. That's why somebody like me gets sick in experiences I've been in there. You know what I mean? It's enough for me to exist there, but probably not for that long. And the sickness comes from that distortion, and that's why it's bigger on the inside than what I'm seeing in the sky. It's not in the same dimensional realm, Anyway.
I've been hearing about that a lot more lately, about how things are, there's crafts and things that are a lot bigger on the inside than they are on the outside. And then, I made it a point to cover in some of my shows some of this cloaking technology too. And I'm sure a lot of that is reverse engineered from ETs are giving it to us or something. I don't know, with all that cloaking gear. And, I did a show a while back on the Glimmer Man. Okay. The Glimmer people, it looks like the Predator, roaming around the woods, invisible, but you can see it. Okay, you can see it, but it's invisible. Kind of like that craft explained on that Missing 411 documentary. It's
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You are done. You are done.
Okay. Well, no, I was just talking about that the cloaking technology. I think that's something else that it's got to be some kind of ET technology. It's got to be, because I think that's what they're doing with their crafts, and that's why that's why they, you can't see the craft, but the ETs come out of something because it's in that cloaking technology. You and I even covered the whole crystalline cloaking technology that reptilians use too, right?
Yeah, metamaterials. Another example of that, a good one that I had heard, and again, it takes us back to old Art Bell again. But remember, he used to interview John Lear all the time. And I think maybe some of John's information was questionable, but some of it was legit and strong. But he had mentioned being on some base and seeing a craft that was just a little bigger than like a coffin, like maybe 6 feet wide and about maybe 3 feet wide. And he stuck his head in it. And inside, he said he could have thrown a football across it inside. So it was huge inside. And, actually, in one of my favorite episodes, my favorite incarnation of Doctor Who, Tom Baker, most people would just know him as the cat with the scarf and the funny hair. But, not as the great doctor, but there was an episode where he's talking to the primitive. And she's asking him, they're in the TARDIS. She's saying, how is this TARDIS bigger on the inside and the out? He starts saying it. I mean, he describes it exactly. He said it's because the inside and the outside are not in the same dimensions. And he got these two boxes, but like one is bigger than the other, like noticeably, okay? And he's like, which box is larger? And she's like, that one, the bigger one. He's like, true. And then he takes it and goes across the TARDIS and puts it on the pedestal thing, and then comes back to her and puts it like this to her. And he's like, now which one is larger? And she goes, that one over there. He's like, but it looks smaller. And she said, that's because it's further away. And he said, exactly. So if you could have this here and put it there, the large one would fit inside the small one. And she looks at him, she goes, that's stupid. And he goes, man, that's transdimensional engineering, a key Time Lord discovery. When you start really dealing with interspatial geometry, that's not crap what they're talking about there. And I think that's what we're dealing a lot on these ships and these crafts. And it's not just the holographic principle and all these things. I think it's not the classifications we want it to be. You know what I mean? So and I can speak about my personal experience. I mean, I was not a TARDIS, but I mean, what I was definitely tripped out. And it was definitely bigger on the inside than it was on the outside. And I got so sick on each one of those things, I could barely, as to quote my friend, hold my cookies. And once you lose the cookies, the experience is pretty much over. Okay, it's like having the flu or something, man. So anyway, food for thought I'm throwing out there for people, all right?
Oh my gosh.
One last thing.
I was going to say, get the vomit bag on the UFO craft ready.
One last thing. This takes us into something else you and I have talked about. Mm-hmm. The Jonathan Reed. In fact, you might even RV'd it. The Jonathan Reed story, where he had beat down the alien with the stick and then took it home.
I did not. We did a show on it, but I did not RV that.
Didn't RV it? Okay, cool. Sorry, my fault.
I don't think I did.
But the craft that he said, this craft, he took the photo of it. He took the video of it. He's, you know what he's doing. But the video shows this thing that looks almost like, God, not a triangle. God, I should have, not a parallelogram. What? The shape of it, the octagon, kind of. But anyway, it's this black thing. And he said it was a craft. When I look at that thing, I think not just was it a craft, I think it was a rift, into a tear into another universe or another dimension. Anybody look at that? And the Jonathan Reed story. And I've got some pictures of it.
It's the alien in the freezer story, y'all, where he took the alien home and put it in his freezer and it came back to life after he thought he unalived it. Yeah. And I mean, we did a show on it here on my channel.
And some things that I thought made me think that was real. He kept mentioning that suit. He said he tried to cut a piece of it off and it repaired itself. And then when this thing comes back alive and starts talking to him telepathically, it told him, I'm sorry, I didn't want to hurt your dog. But it came up aggressively, it was barking, and the suit is self-defensive. And it activated and it attacked it. But the being itself had some remorse contained. And I thought that was not a joke. Because I've shown pictures before of these little blue cats I'd interacted with, all right, and how they had on these suits. And these suits to me look like they had these racing stripes on it that looked like a blue. The suits were blue, they were blue, but these suits on this racing stripe on them was almost like a white, light blue, sky blue type.
Oh,
and
interesting.
I'm picking up a lot that those were like almost a fiber optic system that's connected to this thing that they're holding. Mm-hmm. Right, sorry, I can't find the picture. It's got these fiber optic things coming out that gives him a symbiotic connection with the craft as well. So it's all like a bioneural circuitry or something, okay?
Yeah, it's connected to his consciousness or his nervous
hyperdimensional
system.
Mathematics. See, I like that right there.
Yeah.
Yes, hyperdimensional
physics.
in fact, Fly Sky, that takes us into the general relativity. And when you start dealing with like that hyper, what was that guy's name? He did a few of them, dealing with like the internal stargates and using our own body and our own energy for as like the black holes themselves and things of that nature. And these different actually stargates that can be done with the human body and the biofield. But that technically would be general relativity, low power. And that's what we need to start looking more at, low power and ways to transmit dimensions in that way. I know we're running out of time. So real quick, something you had mentioned that we probably didn't go over, the black mirror thing and how interesting that is, and when dealing with black mirrors and, something I learned when I was much younger is a way that to transport yourself consciously through dimensions is not just looking through mirrors, but also looking on water when you see like a bright reflection on water, like the sun or whatever, but you can look at that and use that for dimensional transport also. But this is when we start dealing with this phenomenon consciously, not so physically. You know what I mean? But the black mirror ties into that, and how much of the beings that come from the levels of fluidity is what I always heard them called. And like, like for example, I've mentioned before, and it was a technique that was taught to me. You take a mirror and you make a frame around it, or put your energy into this mirror, and then you take it down to a running stream and anchor it into the ground, and you start doing scrying over it, but using gazing techniques, looking techniques that actually still the eyes so that the energy automatically has to go through the pineal gland. And you start looking in the mirror, and other beings will start coming to the mirror. That's what happened to me. And I blessed the technique before. So I'm seeing like a couple of times it's an orange thing going around in it, but sometimes it's pink thing.
Yeah.
I'm looking like, whoa, I keep looking at it. It's real pretty the way it's floating around through the water and it's moving around. And then it came through. I couldn't see it anymore. And when I get done, I pull the mirror out and I look over. So I get done, there's this huge atlas moth, like on this ivy playing right next to me. It was huge. It didn't even fly away. You see, so what happens when you get a being that comes through one of these portals? They can't always go back, not the way they just come through, and then they start following you around. That thing followed me around. It was in my garage a couple of nights later. I had to raise it manually, and all of a sudden this dust is flying, this huge moth's flying out of there. How the hell that thing? It looks like the one from the... See, I didn't know exactly fully what I was doing and dealing with yet. So had that be a technique that I hadn't blessed, something negative would have come through that mirror and maybe harassed me the rest of my life. See what I'm saying? And that's
dangerous.
Just simple scrying techniques. But since we're talking about portals, I think it's all relevant. You know what I mean?
I wanted to talk about black mirrors today as well. And William Nighthawk with Nighthawk High Strangeness podcast is in the chat today. And he had mentioned the black, or just the mirrors. The black mirrors are just mirrors. And mirrors are portals as well. And they say, there's a reason that, I don't know if it's just in the South. I don't know, because I grew up in the South. But a long time ago, and sometimes even today, when somebody would die, the family would put, blankets over their mirrors. Okay. It is a doorway into another dimension, right? And they even say, if you feel like you're under spiritual attack, bless your mirrors, cover your mirrors, because they are used as portals, as gateways, especially while you're sleeping at night, for let's just say bad actors to get in there and mess with your dream state and your astral body and stuff like that. So we got to be really careful with that as well. But like Pilgrim Society says, our phones are black mirrors, of course. 100% correct. And Barry, you and I, did you hear Sherry Divban's speech? You did, right? Where she talked about I don't know if you heard this or not. I may have told you about it. She talked about being on her honeymoon. Portals, yeah, her television was a portal. She said she saw like demonic dark entities coming out of her television at one time.
Quite possible. To add with what they're saying there, to just make it worse, then it's illuminated by most of them by this blue light. And I tell people always just scientifically look up the blue light mice experiment. The mice and blue light mice experiment, and how much just exposing them to those blue lights made them aggressive as heck. You know what I mean? So it tells you a little bit more, like, so you get not just what they're saying there, you get added a little added effect on there when it lights up. That sounds like a good
Oh,
little scheme to mess somebody up.
that's horrible. That is really scary. And let's see. Steve says, especially a mirror facing another mirror. Not good. Not good. It's probably not a good idea to have a mirror or a TV, like one of those flat screens in your bedroom.
I had something happen to me when I was a kid at one of the Macy's, and it was these huge mirrors that were facing each other. And it was so weird. I asked somebody smarter than me about it. What happened to me? And they were telling me to just be aware that each one of those you see as it goes back is a dimension onto itself. And it's proof that there's way more than just 16 dimensions.
Oh, wow.
And if you get like one like what I was in, you could see so far back there. I was thinking, my God, how far back does it go? You know what I mean? How many of them are there? And then all of a sudden you're looking too long, doing techniques you don't know you're doing, and something happens. The consciousness can transport and move and project much easier than we think. It's not a technique that we're just generally taught when it should be. That should be a part of our society. Dream practices, true death processes that help our loved ones move over in a better fashion than what we do. You know what I mean? And where people don't get stuck here. Recently, I've had and I'll just say this with respect to everybody, they were so cool though, I think they'll mind, but it's actually a couple of people have come to me from your audience. And I've had some great, it's been this the last week, great sessions with them. And several of them had earthbounds attached to them, and several of them had said to me, I asked, why didn't you go? I asked why didn't they go into the bad thing, the light? No, I'm just kidding. I asked, why did they cross over? Why didn't they go into the light? And they'll tell you. And I had a couple of them tell me, I didn't know what it was. And it did seem like it didn't last that long, so I just ran away from it.
Oh, no.
You hear that type of stuff, but it's the shock of death, though. These weren't hostile earthbounds. Now, what they were doing to the clients is hostile in terms of it's like a possession because they died and they didn't cross over for certain reasons. And that's what they're inflicting on the client, but not meaning them to hurt them most of the time. I'll ask like, hey, how are you influencing them? I've been making them doubt themselves or making them hate people around them and stuff like that. And they're not meaning to, but it's not like quite demonic. You know what I mean?
It's just possession. Possession. I get it. Yes. I've seen that happen to people.
They cross over somewhat easy. Mm-hmm. It's not super easy, but it's not like this great that you would expect. You know what I mean? Especially when whatever happens over there, this change, they start seeing others. And I see them too before they even tell me who they are. They announced who they are. I can see the portal and see what's on the other side already. And there'll be a being there. And they won't be able to see them until the issue of love starts coming up. You start talking about love and things, and suddenly the light starts appearing. We're talking about God and love. It starts just appearing. And the relationship of God, I'm saying everybody, I say that in the term of non-religious. It's super personal to you. What God is to you is super personal. And that's when that really starts coming into play. You start dealing with that and love, and suddenly they can see these individuals here I've been seeing already. And I'm not telling them, hey, do you see that guy standing there? No, they see it on their own without any suggestion from me. You know what I mean? That's important. That's what really counts. And then it becomes so it's not really a release, it's a rescue. One of the people from your audience, one on them said they were from, when I asked them what year they died. And you see, it sounded like they're talking like it might be something current. The year 1865. That's why I'm seeing this portal, and I see like 60 people in this
150
portal.
Years ago.
Exactly. That's their descendants. They've all done crossed over.
Wow.
Several generations.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And it becomes a matter of, hey, I don't want to stay with this person anymore, messing up their life. I want to go with my people. I want one of these light bodies.
Yeah.
But we're not supposed to deal with that because you got some people saying it's a trick. I recently almost sent this to you. In fact, I did send it to you. So I won't say any more than that. But I told you it was bad information what they were saying. And it was an RV person. And they were saying, and the light comes and then you get, and and there's electrical charge. You can't remember anything. That, that's what happens actually when we incarnate into here. We get hit by the electrical charge. Now, I got told that by that insectoid, and you remote viewed those levels or those bases, and you picked up on that energy of field yourself. You picked up on it. That's what they're talking about there. Now, is it possible, I guess, to hit it when you go out? Yes, but it's not the normal way. If you do the normal transition, that light and that electrical charge is not connected. That's different. The only thing I would question when we get to, quote unquote, the mind of God, or go through the beak of the eagle, as it's been described by Carlos Castaneda, does that contain a charge that wipes part of our soul life memory, and the rest of our memories go into the repository? I'm not so sure of that anymore either. And I'm knowing that also we have the ability, if we can stay cognizant enough after the death process, to incorporate who we are into our spirit matrix eternally and keep aware of it. That's the secret. Right now, we can say we've lived before, but very few of us have access to those memories and who we were, unless we go through a regression. The next evolution is not to be like that. We do have access, at least to more of our immortal soul, more on the superconscious level. Anyway, sorry, I'm going on too far. But it's just important people hear this stuff, because it's not just crap, okay? It's stuff that's like to be proven. And people that do the work, I'm not the only person that does this, so other people will tell you.
Well, thank you, Barry. It's all very interesting. I do appreciate it. We always wonder, where do we go when we die? What happens? Why do we get attachments? And why do people turn on us so quick sometimes? Could they be possessed? I don't know. That's always an interesting question. I did want to cover one more type of portal that we have encountered out in the field. And it's something that I never talked about at all until just recently. I don't remember what show I was doing, about a week ago, I guess, a couple weeks ago. We were talking about some sort of portal, and there was a night. Susan is in the chat. Susan Fuller. Okay, Susan's in here, y'all. She's one of my remote viewing friends and on my Bigfoot team. She wants to go Bigfooting with brown dwarf, or Bigfoot dwarf. I do vouch for Susan 100%. If she's ever out there in California, I highly recommend taking Susan out Bigfoot dwarf. You'll have some activity, I promise. Just having Susan there. But anyways, I think Susan was there that night. I can't remember, but we had an incident where something came into our base camp, kind of like behind where our tents were, and it wasn't like a portal opened like this. Okay, it's not like this, like where you would think like but it was like this. Okay, something similar like this, like in the air, but it was this. Oh no, not that color. I was going to show that, Barry. I got that from one of your videos, but it was this color, and it was in the air, and it was in a grid pattern, and two creatures were coming out of it. Okay, crawling out of it. So that's that kind of a portal as well. And the head of my team was able to shut it down somehow, and one of them came out of it, and the other got sucked back in.
Well, like a tic tac, or
it was a tic-tac-toe board. Yes, a grid.
Wow.
Yes. And that's something I never really spoke about publicly before. Okay, because you know what it was, Barry? I was waiting for somebody else to describe that, and I never heard anybody describe that ever. And so I was like, well, screw it. I'll just tell everybody, I guess.
Well, you know what's crazy about that?
What's that?
Remember when you remote viewed the Orbs station in Mount Adams?
Yeah.
How I told you one of the ways that I knew it was there, because when I was forced to do this blessed Skywatch thing, I wanted to have the advantage, so I had everybody do this pineal gland exercise, this pranayama breath, before we went out there into the field, because I knew it would give the advantage. Maybe they see more consciously, spiritually. But when we get done with this exercise, all these, I mean, you've got so many different mediums and psychics in those conferences, and you got several of them, like over 10 people are telling me, I'm seeing this grid. I'm seeing a grid.
Really?
This is a tic-tac-toe board. No, it's the energy field. Maybe also that, but it's also whatever energy field was being projected by that device that scans people's like soul life memories, and then projects something, orb or something that comes into their field of awareness that pushes their consciousness forward. Mm-hmm. But man, it's just interesting you describe it like that, because that's exactly what people are describing that thing as looking like.
Yeah, it's a grid. It's the grid. Well, we do have one more question. Thank you for sharing that, Barry. We have another question from Scott, but you guys, I actually do kind of have some plans today. I've got one of my Bigfoot friends is coming over today, and we've got some things.
You're ditching me? You're ditching the
I'm gonna have to ditch you guys. I'm gonna have to ditch everybody today. It's Labor Day. It's Labor Day. We do have something to do today. It's Labor Day.
Seriously, what's
I'm
up?
not doing. I know we're doing too much labor on this Labor Day. We need to get on out and enjoy the weather. But Scott wants to know, Barry, can we have a walk-in at 40 years of age? I think the answer is yes. What do you think, Barry?
What's up, Scott? Absolutely. I had a really good friend, a pretty good friend by the name of Tamar, and she was when she got her walk-in, I want to say she was probably around 65 or so. And it was a strong walk-in, and she was the first person that I met that was a true walk-in. In terms of she was this old lady. But then she's real nice and everything, hip and very knowledgeable. But then all of a sudden you're talking to her, she might go like, and she's talking like a little girl. And I was like, well, this is like Sally Field, Sybil.
Yeah.
I was working on my degree too. I was on psych, and I was like, man, this has got to be MPD or something, But then this little girl starts telling me things about my contact experiences that no one knew, nobody, especially back then. And it starts, but all these things, but said it was from a certain star system and all this, and part of this light brigade that were these partial light, part physical beings. It was intense. But anyway, just answer that yes. Sorry, long answer, but yes on that, because I know she was real. What she was going through, that was a real walk-in, the first one I ever met, and they were definitely way over 40 when it came to them, or happened to them.
Oh gosh. Well, he wants to know if he has a loved one who's changed. Okay.
Scott, that could be an earthbound spirit. That could be an earthbound spirit. They'll do that as quick to somebody as even that's not even the demonic level yet. It's just people they cross over and they stayed here for certain reasons, but they can affect someone just like what you're saying there. They'll be like a totally different person, especially if the earthbound attached to them doesn't like you. That's the first thing they'll do, fight with your spouse. Please send me an email, and we could talk about that if you want. BarryLittleton13@gmail.com. I might be able to help you with that.
Hey, Larry. Okay, thank you, Barry. Thank you for that. Thank you, Scott, for those comments as well. Hey, Larry Sharp, what's up? Happy Labor Day to you, too. I appreciate that. And Chicky Blue says, Google Phantom Zone and put on images. I would do that right now, but I don't have time. So you guys definitely Google Phantom Zone, y'all. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing. I have not done my research yet, so I hope it's nothing bad, Cheeky Blue.
I like the one from Superman 2 the most, the glass that got trapped in there. I like that's the Phantom Zone too. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is too funny. Well, I think that we've covered a lot of interesting portals today, different types of portals, and how I think that some of these cryptids, some of the forest people, they know how to utilize Earth's natural portals. Okay, the UFOs, everything but us natural little, everyday humans over here. We don't really know a whole lot about it. Some of us do, and some of us are accidentally walking into portals. And Susan is actually maybe one of those people that has been into a portal before, potentially, as well. So thank you, Susan, for being here today. And she is. I don't think she came out another Susan. I think she's the same Susan that she was when she went in. Okay. But anyways, I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's a wild and crazy world out there, everybody. And so Barry, thank you so much for being here today. You really have done so much research on all this already. And like I said, the links are in the beginning of this chat. I will put them in the comments under the video today. After the show, we'll put Barry, your videos for Sasquatch and portals and Sasquatch and caves. Okay, we're going to put them under there so that everybody can watch those as well. So, Barry, thank you so much. Tell everybody where they can find you, what you got going on.
You don't have much happening these days, but you can find me on YouTube under Barry Littleton, Patreon Barry Littleton. I'm probably going to start doing a whole lot more stuff on there. And then also over on Facebook, Barry Littleton, Instagram, Barry Littleton. That's about extensive of my deal. Oh, and you can reach me at BarryLittleton13@gmail.com. One last thing real quick. Okay. I didn't mention it. The flashing on the Paul Freeman video, the big Sasquatch, where he's going, oh, there he goes. There's a lot of disturbances and flashes of light on there. There could be other ways they're using these portals to general relativity. Just food for thought. Sorry, I'm done.
Yes, and that's hey Scott, and that's what I think Keith was talking about. Actually, Keith, I'm going to be hanging out with Keith today, y'all. Keith, our wildlife biologist. Me and Keith and my kid are going to be hanging out, maybe doing some Bigfooting later. I don't know, we'll see. But anyways, he had that incident late one night, and he's probably listening right now to the show. What's up, Keith? But he had the incident where he was, I guess it was late at night at the base camp, and there were some flashes of light, and he heard footsteps, and it did seem as though potentially maybe something had manifested right there in the base camp, right there, and that was where that flash of light was.
Hey, Jessica, ask him maybe what he thinks about like some of those reports that I heard years ago now that like supposedly the military had blood samples, and some of the blood of Sasquatch had chloroplast in it, or chlorophyll.
We've talked about that. We've actually talked about that on the phone, on the show. We talked about that because he has taken. He actually brought some hair samples that we've shown on the show before. Maybe it was on Spaced Out Radio. I've had him on every channel I've ever done here, but he has some hair samples that have like oil globules on them, and we've talked about how they have like chlorophyll in them or something. It's really interesting. So yeah, I'll hook you guys up sometime. You can talk to him about that.
Cool.
We've definitely talked about that before.
I say, yeah, like that one guy that did those tests too. Yeah, that's very cool.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. He does all the testing and stuff. That's his thing, not mine.
There's that thing where oil, God, what's it called? Where oil actually reflects and diffuses light in a way it can be used. A little frolic of the hair is using it. It's called something. It's on the video. I did a video. It's under playlist on my channel, Sasquatch. Check out the one that is Sasquatch invisibility. I showed some pictures of some of those different hair too. So yeah.
Ooh, well, we'll include that video in the comments below after the show too. Okay. It may be a little while, maybe this evening, because I got to go somewhere right after the show today, but I'll get it on there for y'all. Okay. And Larry Sharp, thank you so much for that super sticker. He says, like and share, please, y'all. Thank you, Larry. You're the best. And also Steve Wolf, thank you so much. You're always sending me a little treat to my PayPal. So thank you, Steve Wolf. You're the sweetest. I appreciate that. And yeah, and I just appreciate everybody for spending your Labor Day holiday, especially you're here in the U.S. With Barry and I today. We do appreciate that, y'all, and hope y'all enjoyed it. You know, one of my first shows that I ever did was when I first got a podcast. It was called Into the Portal, Barry. That was the name of my show on KGRA Digital Broadcasting. I think I brought you on that. I'm pretty sure you came on there. Yeah. You can't find a whole lot of those shows today because they went behind a paywall on like KGRA. I have some of them on my channel though. If you guys want to go back in my archive, look up my playlist. It's Into the Portal. You'll find some of my videos. I think Barry's on those. Those are Keith's on there for sure. That was me when I first started doing podcasting. Okay. Was that. So, anyways, Into the Portal though, that was the name of my show. So I've always been into portals, apparently. So, all right. Well, Barry, you got any big plans for Labor Day? What you got going on?
I'm probably just going to be on the chill, actually, and just do a little extra research. I might go live really soon about Jack the Ripper.
Ooh, that's different.
Yeah, I had a good friend that was a pathologist that back in the 80s was on this show, and he said he thought it was that Aaron Kaminsky guy, and that's been proven through DNA now. So anyway, it's another thing.
But, yeah. Ooh, I can't wait. Yeah, listen. Anytime you do a live, I'm there. I try to be there because I am your moderator. Your one moderator.
Thank God. I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
It's fun.
Thank you.
I know. I do all the welcoming and I links and all. I love it. I think it's hilarious. I love it. And your shows are always very entertaining. So.
Oh, thanks.
So thank you. It's great information. Yeah. Well, you guys please go over. Yeah, y'all go subscribe over to Barry Littleton on YouTube and on Patreon, and follow him on Facebook and all the outlets. And you guys, thank you so much for being here today. Again, I really did enjoy the show very much, and I want to thank all my moderators for being here today. Speaking of moderators, you guys are amazing. So thank you so much for posting the links and just being so welcoming to all of our guests in the chat today. Man, you guys are awesome. Awesome. And please stay safe out there, y'all. Keep your head on a swivel and go get some sunshine and fresh air today if you can. Okay, because that's what I'm about to do. And I will be back on Wednesday on a glitch in the matrix. So you guys be there, be square, 1 p.m. Eastern. I'll see y'all then. All right, everybody, have a great day, and I will see y'all next time. All right, see you, Barry.
Hey, thank you. Take care, Jessica.
All right, bye, y'all.